Villains. Throughout Zelda's lengthy timeline, they have been the plague of the surface, new, old and lesser Hyrule, the Great Sea, Termina, Labrina and Holodrum. No matter where they have appeared or who they were, the only thing certain about them was that they brought death, misery and suffering. As this is the closest you will ever get to pure evil in Zelda, this is the Villains Timeline.
The origins of the Demon King Demise are unknown, but what we do know is that he has been around since the creation of the world, has been seeking after the Triforce for millennia, and is a cocky, dark and powerful figure of few words. He is the representation of the dark side in the Zelda series, and with the close to biblical proportions of Skyward Sword's writing, there is no need to hide it. The Demon King Demise is obviously meant to be the equivalent of the devil in the Zelda series, the root of all of Hyrule's suffering. The evidence is compelling, the upside down Triforce on the anti-Master Sword being the corresponding representation of an upside down cross, the sign of the Antichrist. The same goes with his dark shell skin and fiery hair. As commander of the ruthless demon forces, he sought the destruction of mankind and the goddess to utilise the almighty Triforce to remake the world in his own image. Fi's description of Demise speaks for itself. He is the source of all monsters and has even conquered time itself.
His hate was without boundaries, and with his faithful servant and right hand, the demon Lord Ghirahim, aka the representation of Lucifer, the Shining One, the Light Bearer, the Glamorous, they represented true evil. The brutal campaign of the demon forces caused the close to complete extermination of the human race and evacuation of the rest of the civilization to the sky. Demise noted this in his speech to the Hero of the Skies.
The humans are known weak things, hardly more than insects, shivering under rocks, ready to flee at a mere glimpse of me. When I last walked this world, they did little more than scream and cling to their goddess, mewling and praying.
This ultimately led to the united effort of the divine and mortal forces to face, defeat and ultimately seal or banish the evil overlord in the sealed grounds. However, this target was only partially achieved, as Demise's servant, Demon Lord Ghirahim, was not taken, and after goddess Hylia passed away, he must have been planning the resurrection of his master.
In contrast to the dark character of Demise, Ghirahim is a shining, flamboyant, overconfident, but also civilized persona with a habit to go completely insane. He considers himself as a stunning, exquisite and pure being, and acts at first as a polite snob and gentleman who kicks downwards and mocks the weak. He is out there to inflict pain. At the same time, he was as naive as it gets and continued to let the Hero of Skies slip away even when he stood in the way of his prey, the reincarnation of the goddess Hylia, Zelda, who was the only ingredient needed in order to resurrect his fallen master, the imprisoned Demise. During his pursuit of Zelda, he utilised his powers to awake some of the worst monstrosities that the surface had been hiding, but despite upgrades to his skin defense, he failed to capture Zelda or take out Link, until it appeared that everything was lost for Ghirahim in the present time.
Time was obviously not an obstacle for Ghirahim, as he grabbed the opportunity, captured Zelda and brought her back to the distant past through the Gate of Time. There he did his very best to complete his ritual, and though he was once again humiliated by the Hero of the Skies in battle, his persistence led to the resurrection and freeing of Demise from his imprisonment. He in return dealt with his servant appropriately, ripping out Ghirahim's true form, the anti-Master Sword. All seemed to be lost, both in the past and the present, as Demise sought vengeance after being imprisoned.
The goddess lowered herself to mortal existence to keep me imprisoned. How pathetic! This bag of flesh pales in comparison to the magnificence of her previous form.
Despite being given the opportunity to flee, Link crossed his fears and accepted a one-on-one duel against Demise.
The hate for the gods that is boiled in my veins. You will taste all of it in the bite of my blade.
To Demise's disbelief, he got a taste of the Master Sword, but would not let Link have the final word, as he cast a lasting curse on him and his descendants in his final breath.
Though this is not the end, my hate never perishes. It is born anew in a cycle of no end. I will rise again. Those like you, those who share the blood of the goddess and the spirit of the hero, they are eternally bound to this curse. An incarnation of my hatred shall ever follow your kind, dooming them to wander a blood-soaked sea of darkness for all time.
So it began, and while it would take time for the curse to have a lasting effect, it did not halt other villains from agonizing the surface and later Hyrule. First out were the mysterious Interlopers who wielded dark magic and crafted frightening objects such as the fused shadow, and most likely the item that they themselves feared and abandoned, that we'll get back to. Nevertheless, the Interlopers were defeated and banished after the fused shadow was sealed away. Then you had Vaati. Vaati is probably one of the most complicated and conflicted villains in the Zelda series. His name is highly tied to the element of the wind, seeing as Vaati's Japanese name, Gufu, means tornado. As a young Minish, he began his career as Ezlo's apprentice in the Minish world. Unfortunately, Vaati had a fascination with the evil found in the heart of men, and was soon consumed by it, and with it his desire for power rose. He learned about the legends of the Picori Blade and the Light Force, which were bestowed to the Hylians and more specifically, the hero of men.
In conjunction with the 100th anniversary of the hero's victory over the evil forces, the portal between the Minish world and Hyrule was to open. To celebrate this event, Ezlo would create another gift to the Hylians, a powerful magic cap. Without Ezlo's permission, Vaati stole the magic cap, cursed Ezlo by turning him into a living Minish Cap, and set his course towards Hyrule Castle to compete in the Picori Festival. All of this in order to find the mythical Light Force that he believed was hidden in the bound chest. But in the moment he opened the chest after turning the incumbent Princess Zelda into stone, he did not find the promised Light Force, but unleashed a great evil that was sealed in the chest by the hero of men 1 century prior.
Evidence of Vaati's great magic can be seen in the sorcerer's ability to impersonate the incumbent King Daltus to command the soldiers of Hyrule to look for the Light Force. Several of the soldiers suspected that the king was not the true king, but were too afraid to oppose him under the threat of imprisonment. After extensive searches, Vaati realised that the only way to find the Light Force was to allow Link and Ezlo to continue in their quest to reforge the Four Sword. He is eventually led to the Elemental Sanctuary, where it was revealed that the Light Force resides in Princess Zelda. Vaati knocked out Link and teleported back to Hyrule Castle in order to drain the Light Force from the princess. Upon Link's arrival in the castle, Vaati utilised the extracted Light Force to transform into his reborn form, and in the moment his body was shattered, Vaati transfigured into his wrath. Link found Vaati's weak point, and it was presumed that the monstrosity was finally dead.
Nonetheless, this was just the beginning, as Vaati's beast form would return and terrorize the land of Hyrule after breaking out of his prison, the Four Sword. Long gone were the days of remembrance of his life as a Picori, when he kidnapped maidens and even Princess Zelda, who he desired to become his bride, and brought them to the Pass of the Winds in the sky. Ultimately, he was crushed by the Four Links and resealed in the Four Sword. Thankfully, no one dared to pull out the Four Sword for thousands of years, but the evil banished in the sword must have been forgotten when a new Ganondorf, many years after the events of Twilight Princess, tricked the Link of that era to pull the Four Sword, and thus Vaati was once again resurrected. As a gesture of gratitude, he spread darkness over the land of Hyrule. Through long quest, they were successful in destroying Vaati, or what remained of him, for good, and sealing Ganondorf in the Four Sword.
No villain in the Zelda series is as frightening as Majora, and it isn't the actions carried out that are terrifying, but the fact that unlike other villains in the Zelda series, it is not a living being but an object that was crafted. It doesn't have any emotions or any sentiment, which makes it dangerous. The origin of Majora's Mask is unclear, as the only thing stated about the mask is that it was made by an ancient tribe for use in hexing rituals. According to legend, the troubles caused by the mask was so great that its creators, fearing a catastrophe, sealed the mask in shadows forever. But what was this ancient tribe and where did they come from? Well, there is only one object that resembles Majora's Mask, the fused shadow. The ancestors of the Twilight tribe, the Interlopers, were known for their extensive abuse of dark magic, creating the fused shadow to seal the Triforce and plotting against the humans of the surface, crimes that finally led to their banishment to the Twilight realm. This is an important point to remark since the mask and the fused shadow share a similar aesthetic design, with the eyes serving as a specific clue. Could the Interlopers have created Majora's Mask and be responsible for crafting two of the deadliest objects in Hyrule's and Termina's history? Or is the mask simply a Terminian equivalent to the fused shadow?
Seeing as the culture and traditions of Termina, similarly to Venice, surrounds around Mask with the Carnival of Time serving as its culminating point, it would not be a stretch that a long extinct tribe carved out and added dark magical properties to a mask that was meant to be used as a weapon against other rivaling tribes. The only problem was that instead of serving the host as a controllable object, the demon within the mask, Majora, took over the conscience of its weaker host and turned her into its puppet. The ancient tribe created a monster that most likely threatened the very existence of their civilization and world, and as a result they could have hid the mask in the Stone Tower Temple, as this is the by far oldest province and location in Termina. A point supporting this claim is that an ancient tribe populates the kingdom of Ikana, and the history of this tribe is told to be stained with darkness. Of all the tribes, it appears that the ancient kingdom fits the description of the creators of the mask best, as the place has turned into a cursed hellhole by the hero of Time's arrival.
The entire kingdom was in a state of decay and under a curse caused by the Skull Kid and Majora's Mask. But the worst part was that the deceased king Aigos du Akana most likely was aware of the cause of his and the kingdom's troubles, and his only wish was to reinstate order and peace to his domain. The same goes with the royal composers Sharp, who watches over the spring to the dried up Ikana River, and Flat, who admits to the hero of time that he sold his soul to the devil, admitting that he dreamt to revive the royal family from the dead, and it was the Skull Kid and Majora who cast the curse on him. Seeing that the composers, Captain Kita and the king himself aided Link in his quest to stop Majora, could it be then that the Ikana tribe cannot rest in their tombs because the mask they created was endangering the entire world of Termina?
Furthermore, the ancient kingdom of Ikana does resemble in its architecture the castle pyramid, art, clothing, shields, and even fascination of the darkness to the ancient Mayan civilization. Both of them are great warrior tribes, and both of them have cultures of doom. The Mayan through their calendar, and the Ikana tribe through Majora? But why would the entire world of Termina be endangered? Could it be because the Ikana kingdom once covered the entire land of Termina, and the fact that their troops can be found stationing outside of the kingdom's current borders? For instance, in the Skulltula house by the Great Bay. In this case, could Clocktown and its inhabitants be the descendants and remains of the once prosperous kingdom? As the inhabitants of Termina did not worship Majora for being the savior or protector, but rather in fright of her apocalyptic intentions and potential. They knew of the dark power residing inside the mask, and that the demon had only one ambition: to get its revenge after being locked up all these years on the descendants of the ancient tribe by causing the destruction of their world. Her only goal was to cause havoc and then end it all by bringing the people of Termina out of their misery. A misery that Majora was able to inflict thanks to being found, bought or stolen by the happy mask salesman, who then was robbed by the naive and weak Skull Kid, who was an easy target to manipulate and control for Majora.
Under her influence, he went on a rampage across Termina and caused all of Termina's troubles, placed the cursed masks on the innocent creatures, a warrior of the swamp, a mountain goat, a fish and an insect, in each of Termina's 4 temples, setting a seal on the 4 giants, the guardian deities and protectors of Termina. And guess what? The legend of the 4 giants tells about a time when Termina was united as one nation, and it was the split of that caused the giants to take the 100 steps away from the centre of the land to the 4 temples. It might be possible that Clocktown, with its tradition for masks, is the only remaining and prosperous part of this long gone kingdom that might have ruled it all, and that could possibly explain why Majora was targeting the moon towards the settlement.
A puppet that could no longer be used as mere garbage. This puppet's role has ended.
These were the final words of Majora upon entering the moon.
Gladly, the demon in the mask met its maker when the hero of time, as a reward, received the Thaestitis mask from the demon after fixing all of his antics, curses and passing the 4 trials inside the moon. The combined power of a mask that game director Eiji Aonuma has stated that consists the combined memories of all of Termina's inhabitants' memories. He must have gained supreme power to destroy the demon inside Majora's mask. And when it comes to Majora's metaphor of good guys against bad guys, let me point it out. Majora is by no means good. It is seeking vengeance for being locked up for such a long time, and see Link as the bad guys as he stood in the way from carrying out its vendetta on the people of Termina. It did not desire to take the people out of their misery, but rather caused the misery and suffering and desired to make it complete by taking away any happiness that they had left in their life. Majora deserved what was coming for her when it was destroyed by Link in a final 3-stage battle, showing its true form and wrath in the final phase until it met its demise. That is all for this part of Zelda Villains. Please like, share, comment and most importantly subscribe. And for next week, I have a rather unusual theory Christmas special in store for you.
And no, you won't have to wait until next week to watch the second part of this villain's theory, as I've covered Ganondorf on my channel. To watch this video, just press the link on the screen or the card.
Until then, this was the Commonwealth Realm
And Zeltik,
and I will see you girls and guys for the Christmas special next week.